Hello there.
Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Guys.
All right, first
I'm
quick
back.
check. Carl, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yep. And intermittent technical problems today, so we'll see if it lasts.
All right. And Richard, you were saying you're back.
I'm back, yeah.
You're
I'm here.
back. Welcome back. We
Uh,
missed you.
Has the
Thanks.
most holidays of any person I know. Where were you this time?
I can't even remember where I was. Where was I? Oh, my dad came up, so we just went to the seaside and had some ice creams and stuff.
Has so many holidays that he doesn't remember them.
Yeah. Well, that was
Yeah.
last week. You know, I've slept since then. It's a whole new week.
At least once. Yep.
At least once. With the heat we've been having, just about once.
Awesome.
All right. So how your week's been?
Busy.
Carl, you go first. How did your week go? What did you do? Did you do some cloud native stuff?
I did a little bit of cloud native in my spare time, but most of my week so far has been Microsoft 365 focused. So, yeah, it's not necessarily my really happy place, but it's good to build architectures for our clients. So it's all good. But in my spare time, I've been it's still in the cloud. I've been doing a lot of building of like an AKS playground, like I mentioned last week, where basically I'll just deploy a complete AKS environment with all of the bells and whistles and the add-ons, the container registry, the networks, and the everything that it needs. And then I'm trying to add on to it so that it builds pipelines and build and release sort of stuff as well, so that developers that are new to the technology can see examples of how we build containers or applications into container images, and then how we deploy those to clusters. So,
all right. So Terraform versus Bicep showdown waiting to happen here. We're following the WhatsApp group.
Yeah,
we gotta have that chat at some point.
Yeah, one day.
One day we're gonna have that chat. Before we go to you, Richard, hopefully everyone notices that we have an intro and we have a countdown. We even have transitions that we'll be using today. Credits to Mr. Hooper.
Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing all week. No, not really.
don't lie. That's exactly what you've been doing all week.
In my evenings, in the spare time. But most of the week I've been doing is GitOps, a bit of Flux, using the AKS add-on, getting that repositories aligned right, and sort of integrating it with other services like Cloudflare and obviously some customers' apps as well. So yeah, it's been quite fun trying to get that all up and running in the best way we can to make it easier to manage for the developers going forward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Wesley?
Lots of cloud native stuff. No, lots of research. Spent some time on Azure Container Apps. I think you did as well, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing with the KEDA'vra demo that we'll be using today. Working mainly on some reference architectures regarding cloud native Kubernetes. Testing here and there. No big projects on my end. Supporting here and there, basically.
Nice.
I think that would be the best way to describe it. Pitching in here and there, whether it's pipelines, whether it's Kubernetes, I'm all up for it. I think we need to talk some cloud native news. Do we not?
Sure.
We do.
Let's do it.
And here comes the magic. Here comes.
I like that.
Impressive.
I like it.
If we do say so ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, last week we had none of that. So, I mean,
no
progress.
Mm-hmm.
So, first up, then, let's talk about the tweet thread from Kelsey Hightower. Wesley, do you want to share your screen?
Yes, we can share. Let me find the right tab. Here we go. And then add to stream. Look at that. It's like we are engineers, marketing, everything in one. Right. Yeah, this tweet.
So, Richard, do you want to talk us through this?
So basically, someone tweeted that Kubernetes had single-handedly set our industry back like a decade, which I don't actually agree with at all, and neither did Kelsey Hightower. if you, like he says, if you don't need Kubernetes, don't use it. It's not the silver bullet for everything, and
it's about picking the right tech for the right solution. It's like these people that are these folks that are saying, oh, everybody's trying to shoehorn us into the cloud as a location. No, because that's why hybrid cloud exists. That's why on-premises data centers exist. Let's pick the right location for the solution, and let's pick the right technology or the right platform for the solution as well.
Yeah, and then
we're not forcing anybody.
No, definitely don't force anyone onto something they don't want or do.
Yeah.
But if Wesley scrolls down a tiny bit near a bit of the bottom of this,
more. Just say stop, mate. Say stop.
Oh god, it's gone on since I last read it. There's one bit in there. There's one bit in there where Kelsey mentions like Kubernetes is a platform for like infrastructure people to look after and not the developers, and that's been part of the issue. That's somewhere in this thread. Is it somewhere near the top?
Yeah, it's somewhere near the top. It's within the original thread.
There we go.
There it is.
There we go. Yeah, and that absolutely resonated with me. I've been saying this for so many years since I started with AKS. It is just another platform like VMware, like Hyper-V, and we can use this technology to help developers or other engineers into the world of containers and into the world of Kubernetes. Let's take it away. Hopefully in 10 years' time, Kubernetes might still be around, but you won't know it's Kubernetes. It'll be something else, or maybe not even 10 years, maybe even 5 years. It'll still be there, but it'll be so abstracted away, you won't even know it's there. But you still need that skill set someone still needs the skill set to be able to manage it and maintain it.
Know what's happening. Wesley, if you scroll down just a little, I think the tweet burst. Right, so hang on, scroll up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Right, so that tweet there. So that the tweet in the middle of the screen right now. So the problem is, and that's why some people are dead against things like Kubernetes, because we ask developers to build their application and then look after the entire Kubernetes platform. That will lead to problems. What we want to do really is adopt that platform operations and platform engineering mindset where, yes, the developers will build it and run it in terms of their application, but it's up to the platform ops folks and the cloud native engineers then to support the platform and automate absolutely everything to make sure that the platform continues to operate. So that's an IT ops / DevOps concern. It's not a developer concern.
Definitely.
No, and I think by the logic of the original tweet by this tweet, single-handed just set our industry a decade back. I mean, by that logic, we could also argue that VMware set us back, whereas it provided us with. I mean, it was baby steps, and then huge leaps, and I think that's what Kubernetes does as well. Completely resonating with what you both just said. Quite often, we run into Kubernetes environments where Kubernetes is a very good idea. Lots of containers, lots of orchestration required. It was always marketed, and I think not just Kubernetes, I think mainly the managed offerings like AKS, KS, all those were being marketed as in this is your one-stop shop as a developer to get all this stuff up and running, and then you end up with a scenario, hey, let's go to production, and oh no, you cannot develop your way out of this. You need ops experience, you need platform experience, you need proper CI/CD pipelines, DevOps, give it a name. You need all that done well to successfully run Kubernetes. It's like you need multiple disciplines to make this successful.
You have to have that cross-functional and multi-skilled sort of team behind it. And final thing that I would say before we move on is absolutely no hate towards the original tweeter there at all. But what this did was this gave Kelsey an opportunity to write this thread. And to be quite honest, without the context of the original tweet, this thread still stands on its own with information about how we should really be managing Kubernetes and cloud native platforms and infrastructure moving forward. So absolutely no hate. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But with this tweet aside, what Kelsey has said stands on its own, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So bookmark that link and come back to it time and again, because this information is still true. Don't let your developers run Kubernetes unless they really, really want to. But you're going to be better served by having your platform operations team look after your Kubernetes platforms for you. Okay, quickly moving on to another piece of news then, the Kubernetes podcast.
Yeah.
WASM.
WASM, it seems to be the future of the cloud native ecosystem. It seems that way currently. So in this latest episode of the Kubernetes podcast by Google, the CTO of Docker is being interviewed about Docker and WASM and where it sees it going. So it's definitely one to check out. It's quite a good podcast. I enjoy listening to it when I do a bit of hoovering and stuff around the house.
Awesome.
Hoovering.
And
I think WASM is going to set us back a decade. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
all right. Well,
Nothing to say.
I already said no hate, so come on.
Shots
We
been
can't-
fired.
we
Shots
can't
been
do
fired.
Okay,
No,
okay,
it's all
okay.
good. All good.
So one final piece of news and something that will segue us into our 10-minute tech segment.
Oh, yes.
KEDA. Everyone go to the link. Thumbs up. KEDA has been proposed to become a CNCF graduated project. I think it was announced that they were looking for that in January already. I think I saw some tweets and some GitHub issues where they asked for end user information or end user stories for CNCF to actually become or start the voting process, because that's what it is, right? It's a voting process to become a CNCF graduated project. The timing of this could not be better with the subject of our show today. So, I think more on KEDA after we do another nice transition into 10 minutes in tech. We're going to do that now?
Sure,
Yeah,
let's do
let's
it.
do it.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, next time I will not announce it, but I just really like it that we're using it this time. I really, really like it. All right, yeah, so KEDA. Are we using KEDA currently?
Yes, quite a lot.
Quite a lot. Let's see some Azure DevOps stuff being powered by KEDA as well. Containers, build agents in containers using KEDA.
What does KEDA stand for?
KEDA stands for Kubernetes Event-Driven Autoscaler or Autoscaling, depending on which paragraph you're reading. But it is the Kubernetes Event-Driven Autoscaler. It works based on scale objects, and you can have triggers to actually start scaling your containers. It's a very efficient way to go about your resources. I mean, there's stuff. If you work event-driven, this is really what you want.
Okay, so tell me, for the uninitiated that might be watching us for the first time, or doesn't really play with Kubernetes or work with Kubernetes a lot, why do you want to scale your containers? Why might you want to scale your containers?
So, let's say we're processing something. We're processing things in a queue. And we want that to be done fast. A container can only do so much, right? A pod can only do so much before you need another pod, whether that it's because we've got requests and limits or other resource limitations configured, or the node, we don't want to overutilize the node or utilize it for 100% if there's nothing in the queue. So something happens, something comes in a queue. It can be a message, one message. It can be 100 messages. And, if it's just one message, if it's very, single-threaded is not the right word, but if it's just one message, what will happen is the pod will look at the queue, it will process the message, and then the queue is empty again. But let's say you're doing something like order processing, and you're running a web shop, you're running an e-commerce shop. One order is, let's say, one message. But what if you get 10 orders? What if it's like one of those promotion days around Christmas where lots of people are going to be ordering stuff? Then what you want is every order to be processed at the same speed, right? You want automatically have multiple containers within your deployment, or multiple pods within your deployment to process those queues. And that's what KEDA provides on Kubernetes. And there's like a bazillion different triggers. Well, maybe that's not the right word. I've got my screen almost shared. Yeah, let me I had it here there next to the tweet Kelsey Hightower. I'll add it to the stream. So we've got scalers, and today we'll be demoing something with the Redis cache. But if you look at this, These are technologies you can look at, when you want to scale. So Redis list is what we'll be using. I even saw Selenium here somewhere. That's interesting. MongoDB, so documents in a database. Azure Service Bus, things in the queue. Kafka clusters is quite often used to think. Yeah, it's
even
very
monitoring
powerful.
tools like Prometheus and Datadog as well. So based on your monitoring, you can scale things up as well. So it's not just sort of message queues or stuff. It can be other cool metrics as well.
So
And
this, go ahead.
I was going to say, to install KEDA, it takes little to no effort. All you need is Helm. You need the right repo, 2 commands, and then it's there. And you can use those scale objects. You can configure your YAML, configure your target reference. What do you want to scale, and then have at it.
Awesome. Shall we see the demo, and then we'll talk a bit more
we can see the demo. Let me quickly start with the Visual Studio Code part of this. We've got a deployment, by the way. If you're looking for KEDA or Microsoft Learn, they've got these examples. You can see it. I'm pulling the image from Learn as well. The Redis client, it's very, very well written. It's broken down a lot, but I do think there's a link to the eventual source code that you can use. I do see that my mouse is jumping up and down in the sharing screen, but that's fine. So what I wanted to talk about is the scaled object. So I've got that deployment for the Cloud Native Weekly. And then I use a scaled object, which leverages KEDA. I'm going to make it look at a deployment called Cloud Native Weekly, because that's what I called my deployment. I can set a polling interval. So how often do I check? In this case, you can see at the bottom, I'm using Redis cache. So that's the Redis list trigger I'm using. So it's going to check every 30 minutes. By default, I have no containers running. I have no pods running. Minimum replica count 0. We're going to take a look at that in a second. Maximum replica count 20. So I can also control how much will I utilize the node. Because what you don't want to happen is, hey, I've got KEDA. Let's put in an insane number of maximum replicas. You've got other stuff running on that cluster, maybe even on that node. Stuff starts scaling. Someone puts something in the Redis cache, and then other stuff starts getting evicted if you didn't configure it correctly. I mean, that's what you don't want to happen. So you have to be mindful of what you configure. Now, this is a demo, so we can break it and make it as crazy as we want. But in production, you do want to think about that. For instance, Richard, we've got some of those configurations running Azure DevOps agents. That we do have limits, obviously.
Yeah.
It's all right. I've got that deployment running. I've got my trigger configured, Redis, and then it's looking at a list. And the list is called KEDA in this case. As long I can give this any name, as long as when I put stuff in Redis, I define the right list. And all there's left to do for us is just run it. What you can see here is if I'm doing a very bad practice. I'm just doing it in the default namespace. It always works the best for demos because you don't make typos in the namespace name. But if I do kget pods, you can see there's nothing in the default namespace. So what we're going to do is just watch that, and then we'll see if something's going to happen. Mind you, it's going to poll every 30 seconds. So maybe we wait 30 seconds, maybe we don't.
Sure.
And then what I'm going to do is, got the Redis cache here, and we're gonna push some stuff into there. So lpush, this is the Redis cache container, which contains the Redis CLI, where we can push something to the KEDA list. Mind you, that's the first word, and then all the other stuff, every space, comma, is a separate item in the list. So if I click that, it says broken pipe because it's trying to connect. So now it says integer 90, and I'm gonna just do it a couple of times. And now if I clear and I do this, check the length of the KEDA list, 270 items. So within 30 seconds, we should see pods spinning up. And ideally, if this goes well, we should see this number going down. Pods are being started. Pods are processing. When it's empty, the code in the pod will do some double checks, right? Is it still empty? Is it empty? Is it empty? Is it empty for long enough? Then the pod will eventually stop. And as you can see here, it starts running. And if we just do without the watching, we can see we've now got 5 pods running. If we grab the logs of one of those pods, logs, you can see it's processing from the list KEDA. Next time we do a demo, I will promise I will fix the coloring of my text. But we're processing from the list KEDA, and you can see that every word is, an item in the list. If we check the length of the list, we can see that from 270 we're all the way down to 132, which means that if this was order processing, we have already done, give or take, 140 orders processed. So that's very, very quick. And if we take a look at the pods again, we can see that we've got way more running already. It just keeps starting and starting until the list is empty. But then the containers will remain up and running to check if the list is still empty, because also what you don't want to happen, and that's the logic you probably want in your code, you don't want it to start, stop all the time. You probably, if it's a continuous flow of messages, then either what you want is to configure KEDA to always have a minimum amount of replicas running, so there's always something that can process it, or from a code perspective, once you're done processing, you want to check for another couple of minutes, nothing happens, kill the pod.
Yep.
I wonder how long this takes. I don't think it takes too long. So it's already empty. The list is empty. Everything processed. That was very quick. But we do KEDA pods, and then in a couple of minutes, if we check the logs of, let's do a random one, and you can see that here in this demo, they fixed it in KEDA logs. That's not good. Logs, you can see KEDA list is empty, waiting 3 seconds. It does that a couple of times, keeps rechecking, and then eventually stuff should be gone. We can watch it and see if something changes. But that's the very basic principle of KEDA. This takes little to no time to configure, and that's also the dangerous part about a lot of cloud native stuff, right? We do Helm, install, configure it. Oh, but we do need to think about configuration, because if you set this up wrong, it can be quite the challenge. But
and that leads on from.
Oh, sorry, just to jump in there. Not just configuration you got to worry about, but to keep KEDA up to date as well. That's very important. Make sure you keep it up to date, but check the release logs, because there could potentially be breaking changes every now and again as well. Yeah,
there we go. All gone.
So that sort of leads on from what we were saying last week when we were talking about draft, Wesley. It's not always something. Technology in general, it's not a next I agree exercise.
No.
Get it configured, get it installed, but configure it right, configure it to suit your environment, and make sure that you keep it up to date.
Yeah.
So without KEDA to process your list or to process whatever you're wanting to process, you're going to have to maintain a minimum number of replicas, right? So say 5 or 10 replicas. But if we think about the cost, that's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you money in compute power, and that's going to cost you, to keep them all running when they're not doing anything. So KEDA then
not
fills
just
that gap.
Either. Not just compute costs as well, but you got to think about the green impact you're going to have.
Yep. So sustainability was my next comment. So that sustainability, then that helps your sustainability goals by making sure that you're not having compute sitting there doing nothing and costing you money and impacting the environment. So something like KEDA just fills that gap very, very well. So because it stand up the compute, stand up the pods and the containers as you need them, and tear them down when you don't need them. That's makes sense to me.
All right. So to summarize, or in conclusion, very easy to install, very capable of being configured well. There's lots of options, lots of triggers. You have to be mindful of your infrastructure and what you want to achieve to configure it correctly. KEDA, yay or nay? What is it?
Yeah, definitely a yay.
Absolute yay. Yeah, it's very good. I love it, and I hope it makes the graduation and enough people vote, because I think it's becoming more or less a default. Obviously, there's different scaling methodologies. They all have their use case. They will not go away. This is a very specific use case, but growing more and more. With each new version, it's very, very well maintained. Lots of new triggers, lots of new features being released. All we can say is just use it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right. And with
Right.
that,
Yeah, time to go.
time to go.
Time
to go.
to go and do some work.
Yeah,
Time to go. Get back to work. I'm
Go have some
looking
lunch.
forward to next week. Yeah, that's a good
Awesome.
idea.
Do we know what we're talking
Alright.
about next week yet, or is it still a secret?
have we even thought about it yet?
Or
Let's
maybe
get this
we
one out
don't
of the way
know.
first. Yeah, I don't know unless you guys have decided. But
We'll know by tomorrow.
yeah.
Yes, we will.
All right. Have a very good day. Enjoy your day. Thank you very much.
Have a
Thank you
great
for
day.
watching. Bye. We're
Thanks,
going to do the
everyone.
waving
Thanks,
thing. We need to do the
Oh,
waving
yeah.
thing.
Bye.
Bye.